Listen, if you're getting fiscal policy questions wrong, you're just throwing away marks in your exam. It's a guarantee. So let's master this topic right here, right now, and make sure that doesn't happen to you. Look, it doesn't matter if you're sitting for SSC, banking, or railways. Questions on fiscal policy, they are definitely going to show up. This is one of those topics that can be a real high score, but only if your concepts are rock solid. If they're not, well, you're pretty much just leaving easy marks on the table for someone else to grab. Okay, so here's my promise to you for the next few minutes. We're going to build every single concept of fiscal policy right from scratch, from zero. The goal is simple. By the end of this, you'll be completely exam ready. Let's go get those marks. So here's our game plan. We'll kick off with the basics, then jump into the big one, counter versus pro-cyclical policy. After that, we'll tackle fiscal deficit, get into some advanced terms that'll give you an edge, see how it all works in the real world, and then wrap it all up with a super quick revision. Okay, let's dive right in. First things first, we've got to nail down the basic concept. Seriously, this is the foundation for everything else. If you don't get this, the rest is going to be tricky. So what is this cyclicality of fiscal policy all about? It's actually super simple. It's just about how the government changes its spending and tax policies depending on what the economy is doing. Is the economy booming or is it in a recession? How the government reacts? Well, that's the whole game right there. Okay, now we're getting to the part where most of the exam questions come from. Seriously, from an exam point of view, this next bit is absolutely crucial. So lean in and pay close attention. All right, let's break this down. It's all in the name. Counter means opposite, right? So in a counter-cyclical policy, the government does the opposite of what the economy is doing. If the economy is sinking into a recession, the government steps in and starts spending more and cutting taxes to pull it back up. Now, pro means with or in the same direction. So with a pro-cyclical policy, the government just follows the trend. Economies in a recession, well, they cut spending too, which you can imagine just makes things a whole lot worse. Just remember, counter is opposite, pro is the same. That's the key. So let's see how this actually plays out. Picture this. The economy is in a recession. That's step one. So the government flips the switch on a counter-cyclical policy. What's step two? They start spending more, maybe on roads, on bridges, and they cut your taxes. So what happens next in step three? Suddenly, you and I have more money in our pockets, right? Our disposable income goes up. And what do we do with more money? Step four, we go out and buy stuff. Demand and consumption get a huge boost. And the final result, step five, the economy starts to weak up, it starts to revive. See? It's just a simple, logical chain of events designed to get things back on track. All right, next up is a term you hear all the time in the news, fiscal deficit. What is it? The easiest way to think about it is like a health report card for the government's finances. It tells you if the government is living within its means or not. So let's get specific. What exactly is the fiscal deficit? It's basically the gap between what the government spends and what it earns in a year. Simple, right? But wait, here's the trap that gets so many people in exams. When we talk about the government's earnings or its revenue, we have to exclude borrowings. That's the key part. So the formula is total spending minus total revenue, but remember, without counting the money it borrowed. It's usually shown as a percentage of the country's GDP. Okay, so if a high fiscal deficit is the problem, what's the solution? That's where fiscal consolidation comes in. It's the cure. It's basically the government's plan to get its deficit under control. And how do they do that? Well, there are two main ways. Either they earn more money, usually by raising taxes, or they spend less money by cutting down on waste. The whole point is to get back to a healthy, stable economy for the long run. Okay, you've got the basics down. Now it's time to level up. We're going to dive into some advanced stuff now. These are the concepts that show up in those really tough rank-deciding questions. Getting these right is what separates the top rankers from everyone else. First up, fiscal drag. Sounds complicated, I know, but trust me, it's not. Imagine you get a pay raise because of inflation. Great, right? But wait. That extra income might just push you into a higher tax bracket. So now you're paying a bigger percentage of your income in taxes. Even though your salary on paper went up, the actual money you have left to spend might not feel like much of an increase at all. That's fiscal drag. And it only happens because we have a progressive tax system where higher incomes pay higher tax rates. Okay, exam time. Let's see if you are paying attention. Fiscal drag is an automatic economic stabilizer that occurs due to what? Your options are A, regressive taxation, B, progressive taxation, C, flat tax, or D, corporate tax. What do you think? The answer is, of course, B, progressive taxation. We just talked about it. Fiscal drag is caused by that progressive system. So whenever you see fiscal drag in a question, your brain should immediately connect it to the keyword progressive taxation.
Next up, the crowding out effect. Let's make this really simple. Imagine there's a small pool of money, say 100 crores, available for loans in the entire country. Now, if the government comes in and borrows a huge chunk of that, say 80 crores, what's left for private companies like yours and mine to borrow? Only 20 crores. And when there's less money available, what happens to the price of borrowing it? The interest rates shoot up. So private companies get crowded out of the market because the government took up all the space. That's the crowding out effect in a nutshell. All right, another question for you. If government borrowing increases significantly, what's the likely impact on private investment? Will it A, increase, B, decrease, or C, have no impact? Let's think it through. More government borrowing means less money for everyone else, which means higher interest rates. And when borrowing gets expensive for private companies, do they invest more or less? They invest less, of course. So the correct answer is B, it will decrease.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about theory, but how does all this stuff actually work in the real world? Let's take a look at how governments use these tools to manage the economy when things get rough. You've probably heard the term economic stimulus. Well, a stimulus is basically the government's emergency response kit for a struggling economy. When things slow down, the government takes action to kickstart growth. And what kind of action? Things like spending more money or cutting taxes. Sound familiar? Yep, an economic stimulus is pretty much just a counter-cyclical policy in action. And we don't have to look far for a perfect example. Remember the Atman-Nirbhar Bharat program? During the COVID-19 pandemic, when the entire economy basically froze, the Indian government rolled out these huge stimulus packages. Why? The goal was to pump money back into the system, support different industries, and get people spending again. It was a classic, real-world example of an economic stimulus trying to revive a struggling economy. Okay, it's time for a super fast recap to lock all this in. I'm not kidding. This next slide is probably the most important one of the entire session. If you're going to take a screenshot of anything, make it this one. It's perfect for your last-minute revision. Let's burn these into our memory. Counter-cyclical, the keyword is stabilize. Its job is to fix things. Pro-cyclical, the keyword is worsen because it makes a bad situation worse. Fiscal drag, think progressive tax. That's the cause. Crowding out, the keyword is high interest rates. That's the effect. And finally, stimulus, the goal is to boost demand. Got it? These keywords are your secret weapon for MCQs. So let me leave you with one final thought to tie this all together. After everything we've covered, if the goal is long-term economic stability, which policy is the smart choice? The one that fights against the downturn or the one that goes along with it? The answer is obvious, right? It's the counter-cyclical policy. That's the tool governments use to build a stable economy. Hey, if this was helpful for you, do me a favor and hit that like button, share it with a friend who's also studying, and of course, subscribe for more. And definitely drop a comment below if there's a specific topic you want me to break down next. Stay tuned for the next video. And remember, the complete playlist with all the topics in the series is linked right in the description below.